G'day mates! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. You guys have been asking for this video everywhere on all my socials, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. Literally, you guys keep asking Aussie, what is your Season 8 wish list? You guys absolutely loved it when I did it for the last season, so I'm gonna do it again, but I'm gonna condense it all into one video because I've talked about a few of these topics in different places in other videos, so I'm gonna condense it right down. So we're gonna talk about what weapons do I want, what assault rifles, what shotguns, do I want more mobility, less mobility, do I want mythics back? I'm gonna talk about the map, which is a topic I talk about a lot, but don't worry, I'm keeping it all positive today. Whether I want mythic drops, do I want more POIs, why do I want biomes, all that cool stuff. And I also want to talk about the competitive schedule because we did just get that released a few days ago and I'm pretty happy with it, but I think there's a few things that could be added and potentially they could be added throughout the season. Like I've always talked about a community funded tournament like a winter royale. They bring out a skin at the start of the season. Everyone who buys that skin, it goes towards a big counter that you can see in the shop, and that's the prize pool at the end of the season in like a winter royale style tournament. I want to suggest some ideas like that, and I of course want to talk about my ideas for a new rank system for how they could make Arena good again, because let's be honest, Arena's pretty boring these days. It's been the same since it came out. I think there's some huge improvements that could be made, and I want to outline those. So it's going to be a bit of a long video, but you guys seem to love these, so strap in and let's jump into it. Let's start off with weapon meta, and let's start off with what I think is the most important in shaping a new season's meta, the shotgun meta. What shotguns do I want in the game? I was always a big pusher for the charge, tack, lever meta. I thought that was really skillful. I thought it was really fun, but since they've reduced pumps, purple pumps down to 189, not being a 200 headshot, I'm coming around on pumps a lot more. I think pumps are really skillful. I think they're a great addition to the game. You find a green or blue pump on spawn, you don't feel like you're at a massive disadvantage. If you're versing a spaz these days, unless it's legendary, you still feel like you can hold your own. Yes, it has that extra strength and weighting like it should. If you get a purple or legendary gun, it should feel stronger, but it's not like it did during Stark meta. Stark meta was awful for me with shotguns, in my opinion. I love the Stark meta that you could get a spaz easily, crazy mobility, run around. I get why the pros liked it because it was really fast, really mechanical. If you were a lot better than your opponent, you could beat them. But 200 pumps, if someone had a purple pump and you didn't, it felt terrible. Fighting them was a nightmare. You just, every peak, you'd be like, they're about to one pump. Like, it just did not feel fun. And that's when I pushed for more of like a charge, tack, lever meta. But I am going back towards the pumps now. But I think this season also balanced to where not everyone was running around with insane spazzes, which again, I think is fantastic. Back when we had upgrading and when you were able to buy them at certain locations a lot easier than just Believers Beach, this time around, you had like half the lobby getting a spaz. And a lot of the times, the players who got the spazzes were the players who dropped on the edge of the map, farmed up 555 material, upgraded their greater legendary, and now even without fighting anyone, they have this massive advantage over me despite me having 8 elims at a hot drop, and now they have better loot. So I didn't agree with that. So honestly, the shotgun meta right now, if it doesn't change, I wouldn't mind. I'm not a huge fan of the gray shotguns. I don't think any meta should ever have a gray pump or a gray tack. They just don't hit hard enough. I would honestly rather find an SMG, a pistol, an AR over a gray pump. I'm not even kidding. They're just way too weak on spawn. I think they just shouldn't be in the game. I think they should only start in green rarity and up. But what I am missing, and this might just be me personally, I love having that one fun shotgun that no one expects, the dragon shotgun. I think the double barrel could be due to come back, not the double barrel exotic where it made you fly. I'm talking like World Cup double barrel. I just really like when shotgun metas have a bit of diversity in the play style. Right now, you pretty much run a tack until you get a pump, and then you run a pump. And if you do like the tack, you're probably just going to jump into a box and just try to go for more shots. It really isn't a fun, diverse playstyle. When we had like charge, tack, lever, it really let you play to your playstyle. Do you like the charge? Do you like full piecing someone, lining up a full shot? Do you like to play a bit more defensive? Do you like to run the tack and go more aggressive on the defensive charge players? Do you like running the dragon shotgun, going for that one big shot, like banking everything on hitting one bullet? I like that. I find that really fun and really refreshing. So as much as I wouldn't be sad to see the pump meta stay in the game, and I think it is a very competitive meta, I think the pump tack meta right now is really good for comp, it's not as fun. And it doesn't give a lot of diversity to me as far as the actual player pool and whether people can play to their own style. So I would like to see it changed up. We have had the pump in the meta for quite a while now. I have a feeling maybe the charge will come back, and I have to say it now because somehow last time I got blamed with the pumps going away because I said that I wanted charges. I'm making this video 2 days before the new season. If you think Epic is doing anything based on my videos in general still, I don't know what to tell you, but if you think they had a meta planned with pumps, everyone had spazzes, tax only, and they're like, oh man, Aussie Antics said he wanted charges, we got to undo that, like, it's just not happening. Anything I say in this video is not going to affect the new season. It's just what I want from the new season. Now let's talk about mobility, because to me, after shotguns, that is the second most important part of shaping a new meta. Now, I've talked about this a few times. I like mobility. I find it really fun. I find it really rewarding, but I am not a fan of shockwaves or crash pads. I think as items, they are both terrible for two main reasons. One, they allow you to exploit. You can just crash pad into a box. I've said this before, you could be endgaming competitive 5-5-5, stacked out of your mind, you've played perfectly, positioned perfectly, and then you've got Timmy, who didn't play very well. He's down to 50 mats, he's like 2 boxes across from you, he runs up with a crash pads in your wall, there's no way to know that he's coming, there's no way to stop it, he comes in, boom, 1 pump, your game's over, and Timmy gets the loot. I don't like that in a competitive meta. I don't specifically like it in arena either. Shockwaves are kind of the same. There's so many shockwave exploits to get into a box. I'm not a huge fan of that. Now, I will say this as well. With today's video, a lot of what I talk about, me personally as a player, crash pads and shockwaves are my meta, because I am not very good at building. I am not very good at getting into a box. If I have crash pads, I can exploit it and I can aim duel, and that's what I do. I've got that boomer aim. I trust myself to win almost every 50-50 inside a box. So crash pad meta is actually better for me personally, but I don't think it's good for the game. Now, second reason why I don't like both these items is they cause too much chaos, especially in endgame, and they're too random. How many times you've been running in, you're going for zone, you're chilling, you're on like high ground or second height, you're great mats, you're in a good position, all of a sudden just shockwave tunk, through your base, you now fall, you die to fall damage, or you fall in someone's box, or you get blown out into zone. It's just, there's too much you can't control. I don't like mobility items that, on top of giving the player who uses the mobility, it just randomly destroys other things. Same with crash pads. Obviously, it's crash padding along. You'd be rotating, all of a sudden someone would crash pad your cone, you'd hit the crash pad, you'd fly out into zone. It just didn't feel skillful. It didn't feel deliberate. I also don't like that shockwaves allow the ability to caddy height. If you remember the caddy launcher, you can still do a shockwave. You shockwave up to height, you shockwave someone off height, or you shockwave low ground out. I don't like them as an item like that. The only way I could see shockwaves coming back, and they could still function with that idea of caddying height, but again, you got to have some fun in the game. Maybe have it where shockwaves don't break builds. They send you further like a shockwave. You don't take full damage, so they're not like an impulse grenade, but they don't break builds. You can use them purely just for rotation. I could see that being quite balanced. That could be a fun item, but again, it's a trio meta. I really like the idea of having launch pads and bounce pads, because your entire team can use them, and I'll get to launch pads in a second. But also, I've said this in the past, this season server lag felt better than it probably ever has, and I'm sure that's due to a lot of different cases, but one of the main things, and I said this in my last video, the seasons with the most lag, we know it's due to crash pads and shockwaves. Right when the servers lag the most is when the most is happening, especially endgame, when a lot of people launch pad, the servers lag. It's known to do that, but it's not as bad. Crash pads and shockwaves were the worst, because not only were people flying through the sky, they were breaking builds. The game had to render the entire end game of boxes just exploding, people flying, breaking. Like, it causes too much. It requires too much to render. That is when we saw the worst server lag ever, was the crash pad meta. So not only do I think they're not healthy for the game competitively, and they are a bit of fun, I'll give you that, they are a bit of fun, but ultimately in arena they get old really quickly. They're just not good for the game server wise. Now, launch pads. I said I wanted launch pads back, and I still agree. Launch pad meta has been really fun to watch. I think it was very balanced for like half and first rotating, getting you there, but the ability to just pad onto height, as fun as it is to watch, it's gotta suck for the players. I love watching it. I don't play competitive, but man, the amount of teams that I see skillfully set up for height, get a good position, anchor, someone goes ulti height, someone pushes forward, they try to hold it, they're really skillful, the comms are good, and then you just have one player, again, I'm gonna use little Timmy, just 3 little Timmys just padding on height, 1 pump, box up, our high ground now. Like, it doesn't feel skillful, it doesn't feel rewarding. So if it stays in the game, I'm happy to watch it, but I can see the pros getting really demotivated with it. As far as arena and like cash cups and regular gameplay, I think they are kind of fun to be able to get around the map. If you use them wrong, you get beamed. It's not like you're just, just shockwaving around the map on every kid's head. There is really good counterplay to the launch pads. It's just the ability to launch pad on height that I'm not a huge fan of. And that leads me to what my favorite mobility item is that I can't believe they took out. bounces. When we only had bounces in the game, it was fun for arena, it was fun for pubs, it lets you pull off some cool trick shots, cool plays, but it's really good for competitive. You can bounce pad your whole team and save, 300-400 mats on the rotate, but if you use it wrong, you get beamed. If you try to go for high ground with them at the wrong time, you get beamed, but you can't just use them to just get high ground for free like you can launch pads, and they're also not so strong that a lot of pros are arguing with how many launch pads are out right now and how many people have them. It's just causing people to be able to use them to just rotate to every zone with no brain. They just launch pad to half, they don't get half, they launch pad to first rotating, then they launch pad onto high ground. It doesn't take as much skill and positioning and knowledge to rotate around the map as what it used to be now that there are so many launch pads in the game. So I could see that being another one for it as well. Some of the other mobility you guys always talk about, Riftigos, I find them too easy. You just pop them and you fly. It just doesn't take any skill. Yes, with people's aim being so good and beaming you out of the sky, they would be balanced a little bit. But remember how annoying it was when someone would rift? Yes, you could chase them, but you'd have to hit the rift, fly after them, they'd go down, they'd rift again, they'd go up, they'd fly. It just really slows down the game for me. I think maybe Shadow Bombs could make a return, but they're not really a great item for trios. You could maybe have them only drop in 1 or 2 amounts, and maybe you can only carry 3 or 4. I think getting them in big stacks and holding 6 was just insanely broken. You could just use them to just, again, rotate to every zone with no skill. But the inflatable, epic, please do not take out the inflatable. This item is so good. It's super balanced. Everyone get their hands on it if they want to. It takes up an item slot. If you use it wrongly, you take fall damage. There are skillful ways to use it. You can build up momentum by strafing midair. You can bounce around the map. It's such a fun, balanced item. I've never once seen an inflatable, and I think that's really broken, but I've seen some really cool plays people pull off with them when they're really smart. The only issue I might have with the inflatable as it currently stands is no audio when you're getting out of them. If you've ever seen how Kami plays solo cash cups, shout out to Coach Timmy. I was watching him do a VOD review on his Twitch channel. He used them like crazy. He sees someone about 50 meters away, gets in the cow, bounces, gets momentum, and then before they can hear him, jumps out of the cow and just straight in the head, boxes them. That's the one side of the cow that I don't like, but again, that takes skill. You've got to position your bounce, you've got to do it far enough away where they can't hear you, then you have to be able to take off the cow at a certain point so you don't take fall damage, and then you got to hit your shot, which with that much momentum is sometimes kind of difficult. So again, there is a lot of issues as well in the game right now as far as some of the mobility goes. I do think there could be more fun ones, but mobility doesn't have to be items, and that's what I've always talked about. The best metas for me would be just bounce pads endgame, so you can have, competitive rotations. They're fun to use, maybe inflatables as well for solos, but more mid-game mobility. Have geysers around the map. Have, maybe not a slipstream that was a bit too big, but have geysers, have riftigos around the map, like have permanent rifts that stay there, not riftigos, sorry, just have hoverboards, have quad crashes, have balanced rotation that is always there so skillful players know where it is. It takes out the RNG of the game. If you don't get first zone, you have a rift just around your POI, you have a geyser, you have a hoverboard. Just add more of that because it fits the game for arena and pubs. You get around the map to find people faster. It's not boring. You can do some cool trick shots. You can have some fun with your friends. But then competitively, if you try to rotate into a stacked endgame, instead of having 6 shockwaves, you have a hoverboard. If you use it poorly, you're going to get beamed. It still rewards rotation, but it doesn't make the game boring, stale, and slow. That's what I've always said. Epic really needs to start adding more mid-game rotation into the game that's permanently there, because skillful players can utilize it, but it does cause issues endgame, but again, just turn the rifts off endgame, turn the geysers off endgame the way the slipstream's done. We've seen that in the past. I think that would be a far more balanced meta. Please, give me hoverboards back. They are the best thing in the game ever. They are super balanced and they're super fun. That's my thoughts on mobility. Last part of the weapon meta, let's talk about assault rifles and SMGs. This one's a little bit more boring. I'm not going to talk for as long on it. I think assault rifles should feel significantly different. I don't particularly like having the AK and the pulse rifle. The pulse rifle is interesting. It does make the game feel different, but my favorite AR meta has always been regular AR, like a regular AR and a SCAR, burst rifles and infantry rifles, because they fit different playstyles. They do very different things, and depending on how good you are with each of them, they serve different purposes. It's not just like where you have the AR and the AK, where the AK shoots a bit slower. Maybe it's good for Surge. You kind of don't like it. You grab an AR when you can. You know what I mean? It should never feel like you're holding onto a gun for the better version of it, which does everything the same but better. Infantry rifle, burst, and regular AR are entirely different. Maybe keep the pulse rifle in there instead of one of those. Maybe it could be regular AR, burst, and pulse. Maybe it could be regular AR, pulse, and infantry. I just think that playstyle of having the infantries in there with single shots, really rewarding good damage, but sometimes you have to run a backup weapon like an SMG, or you have to run attack, or you just have to have God aim if you're going to run infantry and pump. It just rewards different playstyles, and I think that's really healthy for the game, same as I think with shotguns. As far as SMGs go, I'm torn on SMGs. When they're really strong and the shotgun meta's weak, everyone just mains them and people just SMG into your box and kill you and don't even use their shotgun. But if you make SMGs too weak, when are you supposed to use them? You don't want to have them be too good at long range because then they make ARs useless. You don't want to have them be too good at close range. They make shotguns useless. I think SMGs are in a really, really rough spot and it's kind of hard to make them fit. I think right now they're kind of good the way they are. I couldn't see them doing too much to them. As long as aim assist stays the way it is, I don't think it'll cause too many complaints. Aim assist, in my opinion, is the most balanced it's ever been. Maybe it needs actually a little bit of a buff at long range. Pretty much all the controller pros are having to learn how to play mouse and keyboard to get their Storm Surge tags late game and mid game and then switch back to their controller. That's a little bit odd for me, but other than that, I think it's pretty good. The next thing would be sniper rifles. I'm so torn on this because I love snipers. I think they're really fun. People seem to talk about them as if like they're this massive bailout weapon where you hit one shot and the player's dead and that's their tournament ruined. And I get why that's frustrating. I fully understand that. I get why people dislike snipers like that because that is what happens. But when you take snipers out of the game, it leads to this super annoying spray meta where you can just stand on top of your ramps and reload. You don't have to peek. You don't have to be smart. You just get to stand there and spray because at worst, someone's going to, maybe shoot you from a distance and they're going to hit like 1 or 2 headshots. But when snipers are in the game, you got to edit. You got to peek and then step back. You got to peek, step back. You can't just stand in the open and do whatever you want. I feel like people don't give snipers enough credit for that. Snipers and one-shot weapons like bows add that element to the game where you can't just stand up and peek for forever. You have to be smart with your positioning, smart with your angles, and especially endgame. But I do understand right now they are pushing surge thresholds insanely high and competitive. If you don't have a good sniper on your team, you're at a really massive disadvantage. And in solos or duos especially, if you get sniped in solos, it's over. Duos, you get sniped in the head, the team pushes, you die. In trios, you have the ability to hold builds. One player holds, one player reses. It kind of negates that a little bit. It's not as bad, but I don't know where I stand. I find snipers really fun to use. I love playing with them in arena. Watching them in tournaments leads to some pretty cool, exciting moments, but I get why the pros hate getting one shot. But again, you got to remember, you got to think about what snipers do to letting people peek. Imagine just you're in an arena mid-game, there's a team holding you, reload, they don't have to ever stop shooting, they don't have to ever stop peeking, there's no fear that they're going to get thirded or get shot at. Snipers help with that. The last thing on weapons is going to be Mythics, but I'm going to save that for now, the map conversation. So I've talked about the map a lot in the past. You guys know I want a new map, or I want massive changes to the map. First off, Mythic drops. I've talked about this a bunch, but I absolutely love Mythic drops. Not just for the sake of the Mythics, just because they're very fun, they're very skillful. Think of all your favorite drops ever. For me, they are Mythic drops for the most part. I'm thinking Grotto, I'm thinking Shark, I'm thinking Authority, I'm thinking Agency, I'm thinking Stark. I'm thinking all of those drops. They are phenomenally fun. Fortilla, again, some of the only ones that I think are really fun that I didn't include would obviously be OG drop spots. A lot of that's just nostalgia. I wonder how fun those drops actually were, in my opinion. But Gotham was a really fun drop, but again, it wasn't a Mythic, but it had crazy cool aspects to it. I love the fact that even as myself, as not the most mechanical player, especially back during the early seasons of Chapter 2, I could outsmart my opponents at Mythic drops. I could play the vents, I could play the vault, I could disguise myself, I could wait behind corners, I could figure out where Brutus was, wait for them to go for Brutus, get them when they're weak, or I could wait. Like, it just had such a fun element and they felt so new and they felt so refreshing. So I really want Mythics back, especially because I want Mythic drops. I love the idea of vaults. I think it's really cool to have to get the key cards strategically, get into the vault, and then secure the vault loot, and then get out. It adds such a fun element to spawn fighting, and it really rewards being smarter and taking the risk. Now, as far as actual Mythics in the game goes, I've talked about this a bunch in the past too. I want utility-based Mythics. I don't want just an AR that does more damage or a shotgun that does more damage. It should feel like something completely new. I'm talking like the Grappler. I'm talking like a recon scanner, maybe a chug cannon, maybe like an infinite big pot, something like that. The infinite chug jug. Like, those are really good because they give you a defensive and utility advantage. They are worth the risk, but it's not just giving you this godly drum gun to run through the entire lobby. I don't want the caddy launcher because that was just super broken. You can go too far, but it was really, really fun for arena. Now, competitive, I've always said that last few seasons, I've wanted some fun back in the game. I was happy to see Mythics come back into the game for competitive. If they don't come back into the game, but we still have some fun drops that maybe feel like Mythic drops, I would be okay with that because sometimes the Mythics can have a big effect on competitive, but even a lot of pros are starting to really seem like they want to get Chapter 2, Season 2, Season 3 vibes back. So if pros and competitive will stay motivated to play with Mythics, casuals and people like me who play Arena would absolutely love them. They undeniably make Arena more fun. As far as the rest of the map goes, I keep talking about it. Looks like we're going to get some major POI swaps. I want at least 5 to 6 new POIs. I would love it if we could get maybe 10 new POIs, 5 replacing the old ones, and 5 POIs around the map, because there's a lot of blank space on this map that could be filled with really interesting POIs. But I've talked about that. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I do want biomes, though. Again, Chapter 1 map looked so cool because you'd go into a desert, you'd go into the snow, you'd go into the jungle, you'd go into the swamps. We're missing that. I'm sick of just the grass changing from blue to purple. I don't care. Make it feel completely different. Stealthy is a great example. You go to Stealthy, the music changes, the atmosphere changes, the trees change, everything feels different. Do that for the whole map. Make the whole map have different biomes that are different areas that feel really, really interesting. That is what I majorly want from the map. So about 5 new POIs on top of the existing ones, and then maybe 5 changes to the existing POIs. I'm asking for a lot. I don't think we're going to get that, but that is what I think would really make the game fresh. I don't want to add 20 POIs so competitive is everyone gets to drop. They have their POI, they don't fight, they loot, they base up, they take shots. No. I still want people to fight for their loot, but I think the game needs about 4 or 5 more viable trio drop spots because we are going into a trio FNCS. That would make about 20 viable trio drops, which means there's going to be about 10 maybe teams that need to contest. So 5 people will be contested at different areas around the map. Maybe they contest for little parts of it rather than having to just 50-50 drop on each other. And then of course the last thing a map changes, 100% chest spawn. It makes absolutely 0 sense that we don't have 100% chest spawn in the game right now. The only good explanation I've seen, and I don't even like this, was that 100% chest spawn caused loot splitting and teaming in solos, but that's just solos. We didn't have 100% chest spawn in the last solo FNCS All-Stars Invitational. It still had so much teaming and drop splitting. People just do that in solos. That's not because of 100% chest spawn. Bring 100% chest spawn back. Everyone wants it. Casuals, competitive, semi-casual. Like, it makes sense. Everyone wants it. Bring it back. Let's talk about my other ideas for how the competitive itself can be better. I've talked about this a few times in other videos, but I want a Winter Royales tournament every single season where they release a skin in the item shop. It stays in the item shop the whole time. There is 500 items in the item shop. One extra one is not going to hurt it. Have a counter above it, and it counts down how much money has been raised towards this Winter Royale tournament. The skin could be the worst skin ever. It could literally be the ugliest skin. I am still going to buy it, and I'm still going to promote my viewers to buy it as a content creator because I want a big prize money tournament, and that prize money goes back to you guys. I'm not talking like an FNCS. Again, this is not going to be purely competitive. I think this would be great for the community. I'm talking like a Winter Royale, which was just a giant cash give to a bunch of casual players getting into competitive, and a bunch of big pros also made a fair bit of money as well. It would make so much sense. The only reason I can see Epic not doing this is because A, it's going to cut down their money, but again, you're getting the community to pay for the prize pool. Maybe they think that people's expectations of how much skins make will be way too high because people will see that and be like, oh my god, this terrible skin has raised millions of dollars. All the skins must do that. But again, just communicate that with the audience. Just say, hey, we're seeing insanely high numbers of sales on this skin because you guys want the tournament. That's awesome. Apex Legends has already done this. Their last ALGS, I've talked about this before, went from $1 million to $3 million, tripled because they added a bunch of skins into the store that if you bought them, the prize money went towards the tournament. Dota, the biggest prize money tournament esport in history, their World Cup is like $40 million, is because revenue sales from the Battle Pass go directly towards the prize pool for the tournament. Please, just one skin once a season. It would be phenomenal. Everyone would love it. This would generate so much hype, and it literally costs Epic nothing. They just have to make one single skin. Please, I have no clue why Epic has not done this. It looks like daily tournaments aren't coming back. They weren't in the schedule. I think they're phenomenal for the game, especially during the summer break. It could have been a really good way to capitalize on hype, people's free time. A lot of the world is still in serious lockdown like Australia. It would have been really, really good. And I think Epic missed their opportunity. And I'm not going to talk about it in today's video because it looks like they've just given up on daily cups as much as I think they are phenomenal. Now, a new rank system, and we have potential we might be getting this. Epic said that they thought that Champs was too hard to get in this season, and being the requisite to get into major tournaments, they wanted to make it harder. That doesn't give me great hope. They're implementing huge arena changes, but I really want to see an actual rank system with outlined ranks that, okay, so let me sum up what I think the perfect rank system would be. So, the ability to de-rank. For a rank system to be good, you need the ability to drop out of that rank if you're not performing well, which makes you play well. It means if you start to fall off, you are going to drop back down. Now, it needs to be a lot harder to rank up as well. I think the bus fare should get increasingly more difficult towards the final ranks. So at early stages for players who aren't as good, sure, don't have too much of a bus fare. Open division, have no bus fare. Maybe as the divisions get up a little bit higher, you have like a 30 or 40 point bus fare. Then when you get even higher, it doubles. And then it triples, and it starts to get a lot harder where towards the end you need to consistently be dropping like 2, 3, 5 elimination games with a top 10, otherwise you're going to de-rank back down because that's going to promote teams and players to play properly. I haven't looked at the exact values of how I would give out points, but you need to have that kind of a system, otherwise there is no point. We saw with Epic putting in the aura scrims or the scrims in game that even when eliminations were worth 0 points, people still keyed. Why? Because they had nothing to play for. So let's talk about rewards. Every season should have an arena skin, a really cool skin, and it should have different variations that level up based on what the highest rank you achieved is. If you de-rank out of that rank, I don't think that you should lose the skin. I think you should still get that variation. So players who can only play for maybe 3 or 4 weeks at the start of the season, then they have school, then they have work, they're not getting disadvantaged, they got to that high rank, they get their cosmetic, and that's what counts. So even though you can de-rank out of the rank, so if you want to get higher than what you already got, you have to grind again, but I think that people shouldn't be maybe hugely disadvantaged just because they can't play the game for lengths at a time. I get it, Fortnite is not most people's jobs. They can't put a full-time amount of jobs hours into it, but there should also be ways to flex outside of the cosmetics. Unless you want to wear that skin, you should be able to flex your rank. So in the kill feed, on your friends list, pretty much anywhere your name is displayed, there should be an icon that matches how high your rank is, and it should look really, really cool. I think on top of the skin, for especially the much, much higher ranks, like the very top, like what would be Apex Predator in Apex for Fortnite, you should be able to get a pickaxe or a gun wrap or something that you can put on with any skin, because not everyone wants to be stuck wearing one skin, but I think a gun wrap would go really well with that, or a pickaxe, maybe a glider trail, things like that. I think there should also be tournaments throughout the season that you only unlock based on how high your arena points are, so higher than Champions Division, so we can have a really stacked solos or trios tournament for the arena grinders. This would make pros play with a proper point system and a proper rank system in place. People would play properly, the games would be good, the practice would be good, and then you'd have access to play in them. This would negate the need to have 2-round cash cups because you've already picked the best players. Again, I don't think every tournament should be like this. There should be some tournaments that people who aren't as good can still play in to test their skills. This would be like the hype cups, the daily cups, maybe some of the solo cash cups, but I think there should be at least every few weeks, maybe once a month throughout the season, there is a tournament that is only accessible if you're at a certain amount of arena points. Again, this kind of a system is used in almost every other game. Rocket League, Valorant, Counter-Strike, Apex Legends, League of Legends, every other competitive game has a proper rank system. Please, it would make the game so good. There's a few other things I could talk about, but I think those are the main things people are looking for when we talk about the Fortnite wish list. So that is my official wish list for Season 8. It's coming out in a few days. Remember, I will be doing a big stream for the new season. I'll be doing the live event into whatever downtime we have, whether it's 3, 12, 36 hours. I'll be doing a long stream, getting ready for the new season. So twitch.tv/Aussie Antics, come give me a follow. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on anything I talked about today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.